when we challenge a lot of these ideas about the mainstream ideas about sex, it's actually almost many times I felt like my head was going to blow up because it's it challenges everything that you've ever learned. And when Greg and I got together, Greg, the psychedelic integration specialist, and I got together, we started having sex for hours. That's not like any little blue pills or anything. That was just what happened because we were not focusing on orgasm. And you see, when you have orgasm, there's even graphs about this. You go up, your excitement goes up, and then it drops off and you're done. So the average length of time that people have sex worldwide is 3.5 minutes. I don't know where they get these statistics. Nobody's ever asked any of us how long we make love. That obviously is reproductive sex. Just, you know, that's the longest time for intercourse. In the more educated Western world, it's about 20 minutes, which is a whole lot better than 3.5 if you're looking to learn something or express love with your partner. And but that has been codified into this is how you do it. This was codified by Masters and Johnson and later by Kinsey. And it hadn't really existed in this codified form before. I personally don't think that laboratory sex knows much about the essential nature of sex. But anyway, here's what they studied was that, you know, there's some foreplay. That's because women need it. And then the woman comes and then the man comes and then it's over. And we've been taught that that's the model for sex. And that's a whole lot better than when the model was no foreplay, he comes and it's over, but it's still become this performance-based activity. So it's like you perform this way and everyone now is under performance pressure. There used to be just performance pressure on men. Now there's even more performance pressure on women to produce these orgasms. A young friend of mine who's 29, I asked him what makes a woman good in bed, and he said, the number of times she can come. I'm like, oh my God, the performance anxiety on now you have to come a number of times. And
or squirt. Right. That's another performance factor, right? The squirting. Does she squirt?
And now you have to squirt. Something's wrong with you if you don't squirt. Exactly. Yeah. So there's just all this, it's become this performance, and the, you know, porn has made the visual. In some ways, porn is great. It's taken off the stigma on a lot of things, or it's a good education thing. I didn't know what scissoring was. I went and looked on porn to see what it was and so on. So we can educate ourselves, but obviously it's turned this into a whole performance where you have to act hot. I've had people come to my office feeling very deficient sexually because they don't, you know, come immediately like porn stars do, or they don't, their girlfriend's genitalia isn't shaped right. It's like, believe me, it's shaped right. And so on. So all these performance issues that have come up. So anyway, in Tantra sex, we don't have that model. We don't have this. First of all, we don't even use this concept of foreplay because we feel like all pleasuring activities are perfect and divine. So we don't set up this linear sort of sexual expectation. And when you know, it's quite interesting when you're not going for orgasm, every touch becomes different because you're not trying to arouse the other person to get them more and more aroused. You're just touching. And there's not this towards something else. So you see this patriarchal sense of heaven is later. So life now is sinful, but heaven is later. That's come into the Western patriarchal model of sex also, which is we're touching each other only to get to the heaven later. Later, not now. Wow. Later is divine, not now is divine. So it fits right in with that conventional patriarchal model. And in Tantra, which is mostly passed down through female teachers, there's some great men teachers also, but it's a lot of the lineage comes through women. And it's this thing of, we're not looking for an orgasm to be later. It's hard to talk about this stuff without using the patriarchal language, but we're trying to relax into this moment of touch with you as divine. I'm not trying to get anywhere else. We're not trying to get ourselves aroused to this point where we can drop off and not make love anymore. And when it's like that, you start making love in a tantric way, and it can last for hours and hours and hours. And what happens after a certain, I usually don't say this until later, but what can happen after a period of time is that the bodies start making love by themselves. You're not even there anymore. It is the most amazingly psychedelic thing.